Greetings. I hope everybody is still doing okay. So I want us now to continue or like to dive into the first homologous series. So our first homologous series, it will be alkane. Alkane. So alkane is still regarded as like a hydrocarbon, meaning like now it's the bond that exists between a carbon and hydrogen only. So the last time we did our meth, eth, prop, but, pent, and whatever as our prefix. And I did say if it's meth, it simply means it consists of one carbon atom. If it's eth, two carbon atom, prop, three carbon atoms, and so on and so on. So like now we're gonna have like now the first homologous series, which is an alkane. So all the homologous series will have something that makes them to be different. So one, alkane will have a different suffix as compared to alkene and alkynes. So the first thing first which you need to know is what is the suffix of alkane? What is the suffix of this? So alkane, the suffix is ane, A-N-E. So ane. So it means in all the meth, eth, prop, whatsoever, then you need to put in the suffix. So like now this will be the suffix, right? Of alkane. So meaning if like now you want to see that this thing is an alkane, you're going to see it by its suffix. So actually like that is one of the things which will help us to see that this thing it's an alkane because of the suffix A-N-E. Now two, uh, then like now the other thing which will help us to figure out if this is an alkane is alkanes are saturated compounds. They are saturated compounds. What do I mean when I say these are saturated compounds? So the word saturated compound, it simply means a compound that consists of single bonds between carbon atoms. So like now this one's alkane, they have single bonds. There is no double bond, there is no triple bond. So it only consists of what we call single bonds between carbon atoms. Hope that makes sense. So like alkanes are saturated. Number three, alkanes will have this general formula. So the general formula which will help us to do its molecular formula, it will be CnH2n plus 2. And then like the C standing for the carbon, the H standing for the hydrogen. What does the N stand for? So the N in this, it stands for the number of carbon atoms, right? So like for instance, if like we are talking about prop, then I told you prop consists of three carbon atoms. So it means you're going to substitute three and you're going to substitute three in those N. So like this and this is basically still the same thing. So which represent the number of carbon atoms. Hope that makes sense. So like now, because we said now the suffix is this and I gave you the meth, the eth, and actually doesn't really make much of a sense. So like now let's just try to put in like these suffixes into the name so that like the name can be proper. So for instance, the molecule that consists of one carbon atom, we said we're going to call it meth, but because it's an alkane, then it means also we need to substitute in the suffix. So it means this thing will be called a methane. So methane simply means it consists of one carbon atom, but like it's an alkane because of the suffix. So if it's two, we're gonna call it a what? An ethane. Then if it's three, we're gonna call it a what? Propane. And then if it's four, we're gonna call it a butane. Then if it's five, we're gonna call it a pentane. And then hexane, heptane, and octane. Hope this makes sense. So like now this is actually like now the complete name of this. So like now alkane, one, you'll need to know its suffix. Two, you'll need to know its saturated. Three, you'll need to know its general formula. Then number four, then this is what I want us to talk about is we'll need to do like this three stuff. We need to be able to draw the structure. We'll need to be able to do the condensed structural formula. Then three, we'll need to do what we call the molecular formula of this, right? So the first thing, or like actually number four of this is you need to know the carbon must always be the central atom in organic chemistry. So the carbon must always be the central atom. As we said, like this is the bonding between carbon and something else. So carbon must always be the central atom, which is bonded to four bonds. So like it must always be the central atom and it must have four bonds. So the bonds we're talking about, 1, 2, 3, 4. So every time when you count the bonds around a carbon, it must always give you 4. If you have 3, you know you did something wrong. If you have 5, you know you did something wrong. So the bonds around a carbon must always be 4. So as always. So the bonds around a carbon, please don't make any mistake. There must always be 4.